Projector, yeah, brilliant. So welcome to our talk. We're just going to be talking about our journeys from breaking into cyber, from Paupers to Queens, so basically through university to now, and some of the challenges we've faced, some of the fun stories we've got from being in industry. So welcome, we hope you enjoy it. And disclaimer. I was doing a workshop yesterday, and a very lovely guy pointed out to me that I tend to slap my thighs a lot when I'm doing a talk and don't know what to do with my hands. So either count how many times it happens, or do it with me, and then I'll hopefully stop eventually at the end of this talk. We'll see. I don't remember doing it, so we'll see what happens.
Cool. You've already done it once. Amazing. So just a little bit of an overview about what we're going to talk about today. So first we'll talk a little bit about us, what Security Queens is, a little bit about our individual journeys. It's about how we broke into the industry, our career journey so far through university, the very scary adult world of having to manage ourselves, what kind of barriers we faced as well, getting into industry, what plans we have, and also a few top tips. So this is quite a high-level talk, nothing too technical. There might be a few war stories if you're lucky. And also, obviously, a Q&A at the end.
It's a very chill talk. So I'm Ginge, aka Sarah. I am a security consultant at NCC Group and a security queen, like you all know now. I'm also a Ladies of Cheltenham Hacking Society admin, so the security queens eventually joined forces, and now we're a lovely little group that will work together on workshops. I'm a forensic computing and security graduate from Bournemouth University, and we actually had our graduation last year, even though we graduated in 2020, and the BUCSS London 2019 Rookie Track winner, which I'm extremely surprised about every time I think back to it, because I just thought it was horrific when I presented at the time. From my talk, I decided to do a workshop on the DigiSparks that I used when creating my talk, and that was for G3C back in 2019 as well, and it was their first ever conference at the same time. I'm also a lover of foreign places, so I got to go to Vienna when I won the Rookie Track, so a little picture at the Christmas market, and it was a lot of fun going there and having to explore. But more recently, I am a lover of my sofa because lockdown has hit different, and I had to get to know it very well. I haven't been able to go anywhere. And over to Sophia.
Cool. So I too studied at Bournemouth University. I did a slightly different course. So I did cybersecurity management, which is a little bit more high level, but I'll explain the differences in due course. I too am a security consultant for NCC Group in the pen testing sort of department. May have seen me on TV, hopefully not eating a sandwich, on Channel 4's Hunted as a cyber hunter. Won a bunch of stuff, so most recently last year for SC Awards Europe, Cybersecurity Student of the Year. Lover of horses. I've always loved horses since I was year high, but as a lover of horsepower as well. A little bit of photographic evidence that I can drift, if any of you saw the abysmal attempt I did on the rig earlier. And I too am a part of LCHS as well, so that's our new venture, I suppose.
Yeah. So back in the day in BUCSS London 2019, myself, Sophia and Morgan, who is in the audience today, started Security Queens over a year ago, which is crazy to think that the time's gone so quickly. And by this point now, we've written over 40 blog posts. And when we first started out, we actually won the best new up-and-coming blog at the European Cybersecurity Bloggers Awards. And we were interviewed by InfoSec magazine. And we've started speaking at different conferences like CYNAM, when we collaborated with the LCHS to do the breakout sessions. And we've also been dubbed cybersecurity influencers. So Morgan actually found this little snippet. It's so weird that that's actually a thing. I don't know if that's definitely a thing, but someone mentioned it. So
it has to be true because it's on the internet.
It has to be true. Everything on the internet is true.
So yeah, I guess we'll talk a bit about how we started, really. So we both met at university in second year. As I said, I did a slightly different course to Sarah. I did cybersecurity management with 1 year placement, # class of COVID, graduated a year late. So focuses on very high level strategic cybersecurity, so things like business continuity, incident response, policies, and we had some odd units like cyber psychology, which is actually quite cool, and law. I won't comment on law. But I really enjoyed it, and it was kind of a jack of all trades. I learned a lot of different aspects of cybersecurity through that degree.
My degree was still at Bournemouth University, but slightly different. So I did forensic computing and security, which meant that my first year was a baseline computing year. And when I started university, I hardly knew anything about IT and especially cybersecurity. So it just taught you basic concepts like, what is a computer and how does it work? What are the components? Really low level to high level stuff. I eventually went into networking in my final year, and in my second year I did an ethical hacking and forensics module, so that was really interesting, and I got hands-on experience with things like, I want to say Nessus, but I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have had the budget for that. I think it was OpenVAS or something like that. That was too long ago now to try and remember. So I basically looked into that, tried out some tools, and from there went into my dissertation and started specialising in what I was actually interested in.
So a big sort of part from my journey, actually Sarah joined me in a few CSC UK events. So Cybersecurity Challenge UK is basically a government-backed programme that hosts a series of national competitions, learning programmes, networking, career days to help people break into the cybersecurity industry. So myself, I got introduced to them through attending a career fair they did at my university, but we ended up doing loads of their like competitions, just general like boot camps, that kind of thing. So that played quite a big part in a stepping stone up into industry, I suppose. Yeah. And of course, we have to give a mention to our pride and joy of the university, the former university, now Computing and Security Society. It used to be Cybersecurity Society, but we won't go into politics. So what this was, it was basically once a week hacking and computing meetups. We do the usual nerdy stuff, CTFs, programming, had the odd guest lecture, but it was mostly focused on skills workshops. So one week we focus on web, another week we focus on forensics, then we had like databases, random stuff. But it was a really good way to sort of network with other like-minded folk on campus, maybe not necessarily from a STEM background. We had sort of like non-techies, such as law students, there was environmental studies, there's some AUB, which is the arts uni. They joined us in a couple of those as well.
That was interesting, trying to teach them how to use a command line. I didn't know how to use the command line when I first joined.
Another thing that we did was lots of field trips to conferences like this, so that kind of helped us network. Bletchley Park, one of my favourite places to go.
I need to go there.
COVID ruined those plans. And as we said, we did a lot of university level CTFs, especially with Cybersecurity Challenge UK, but also a lot of online ones like Pico CTF as well. And of course, 0 Day CTF. So 0 Days is an Irish competition based in Dublin, which I think we came second.
Yeah, I think we did
come second. And it's also a very interesting story about that. We nearly got a tattoo of the 0 Day CTF in the name of CTF points because we were that desperate to win.
It was what clinched us the second place because they had lovely challenges. And when I say lovely, I mean horrific challenges where some people even had to drink from a shoe and not a clean shoe.
If you want to know about that more, probably grab us at the pub. It's probably not super friendly. And I guess we move on to placement now. So for me, what was really valuable was not necessarily the academic part of university, it was actually doing placement year. And I don't know if you can tell what I did for my placement, but I actually went into pen testing. So it was quite technical for me. Coming from a managerial degree, I didn't really know much about sort of like Metasploit, Nessus, Nmap. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? So it was really good to be able to be exposed to that, but also the companies I worked for had a lot of internal material that I could work through and learn off as well. It was really hands-on, so I was able to shadow other consultants about what kind of jobs they did, anything from web apps to IMP to, I did lots of research stuff as well. So a niche for me was I really wanted to go into transport research, and I was really fortunate to be able to do an agricultural white paper about hacking like tractors and stuff, which I never thought you could do, but you can, which is really cool. And I would say this was where I kind of got sacrificed to appear on Hunted and never looked back. I'm now back for a second season, getting aired in January, if you want to try sport.
I can't wait to watch Hunted.
And I was, again, really fortunate to be offered a graduate role from that as well. And it's always great to tell your non-techie friends what you work as now.
I know, I don't really think I've told many of my friends yet. I don't think...
Usually I just say hacker.
That's a pretty better idea. So my placement was very different to Sophia's placement. Mine was more blue team based, so I was a security operations analyst for G Research. And this is me catching all the horrible red teamers. I kid, there really wasn't that much action when I was there. But I did get a lot of experience with security appliances, so firewalls, proxies, DLP, which is just data loss protection and things like that. So it was interesting to get to know these devices and how they actually worked in the wild, because all of it was just theory for me. And yes, I did find out that it was always the proxy that was the issue, and definitely not when you do a deny all rule so no one can access the internet. I swear that actually wasn't me that happened to me, but it did happen once. Changes within the business meant that it was time for me to change, so I did get to experience a little bit of role shake-up when I was there. They had a security reorg to try and streamline some of their processes, and it just meant that I got to play around with new things. So even though they might have moved the firewall to the networking team and things like that, which does make a lot of sense, I actually got to try and automate some of our processes that we had, that I didn't want to just click a button and say, oh yeah, this has been approved, I can do this now. I didn't want to just be one of those monkeys that did that. And my communication skills were strongly developed whilst I was there. So we had an issue once internally, and I just remember thinking to the people that were having issues with it, why don't we just speak to the team? Like, why are we here arguing about it amongst ourselves when we can literally go and ask them to stop doing the things that they're actually doing? And of course, also, if you don't communicate with anyone, you can't have any communication issues. Okay.
So I guess the next chapter of our journey was dissertation in final year, a very scary concept. But funnily enough, it helped us find our niches, I guess. Beforehand, I knew I had an interest in transport, but I didn't know that was the specific route I wanted to go. So I ended up doing a very long-winded titled dissertation, a study into automotive hacking and the rise of connected and autonomous technologies, an in-depth research paper and education exercise. My supervisor did not like me for that one because it was a bit of a mouthful to read out. But it was really good. Basically, what I did was a huge risk assessment and very high-level threat model of both current and future vehicular technologies, especially focusing on connected and autonomous vehicles. So think driverless cars and vehicle-to-vehicle communications and vehicle-to-infrastructure, smart city integration, that kind of thing. And then on the back of that, I created an education exercise with a plan to be deployed into academia and industry to help promote awareness around CAN-based hacking. So it was kind of like a little Raspberry Pi, which I implemented its own CAN network into, which could then be deployed into a thing like a CTF platform that you just SSH into and mess around with the CAN data. And for those of you that don't know what CAN is, it's basically a bus within a car which sends loads of data to help deploy airbags or the brakes. It's kind of the backbone of the car. So it was a love-hate relationship, but in the end I actually did love it. So I also learned how to solder, which was an interesting experience. Got a lot of injuries from that. But it fueled my passion to break into automotive security. So that was the kind of little Raspberry Pi. It didn't look very pretty, but it did the job. And that was my summary of threat modeling for connected and autonomous vehicles.
So my dissertation was completely different to that. Sophia's just blows my mind because I definitely do not specialize in automotive at all. Like Sophia said, it did help us find our niches. When she says love-hate relationship, I think mine was mostly hate when it came to the end. I was so ready for my dissertation to be over. It did help me understand the struggles of project management. So I do realize now that you cannot spend all your time trying to develop all the things, because that's where I went. That's where I went completely wrong. I spent months trying to build my actual final project rather than actually writing the dissertation that gets marked. So my title was Improvements to the Secure Proxy Tool and the Implementation of HTTPS Requests to protect against malicious and phishing URLs.
Another mouthful.
I think that is just you have to do that when you're doing a dissertation. So basically, I ended up creating proxy, but I started out looking at the growing landscape of phishing in mobile devices, which was really interesting, especially because smishing is now a thing. It's not anything new, it's quite old, but it was interesting to look at all the different stats. From there, I ended up looking at how mobile browsers protected against phishing, and I did find that the majority of them do implement security protections. But Edge is a lovely little special case. We all know and love Edge, which is basically the newer version of Internet Explorer. Apparently there are no protections against phishing at the time of my dissertation when I was looking into this browser. I spoke to one of the Microsoft support workers there, and they were like, yeah, we can't find any information. I Googled around, I couldn't find any information. If any of you know differently, please enlighten me, because currently my view on Edge is just right now. And from then I had to build a solution. So my solution was to try and build a proxy. I used the open source software called E2 Guardian. This is a Google image of it because my dissertation wouldn't load when I tried to put the picture in. I couldn't be bothered to wait for it to load. It was too big in Google Docs. So basically, it has some really interesting filtering mechanisms. I went through the URLs and the blacklists that I stored. I did some stats on it. So things like common top-level domains, but they're not top-level domains, like .ru and .io, but it's not .io. So basically, country codes and things like that, I tried to do stats on there and implement some kind of filtering protections. But really, to demonstrate this, I ended up trying to block Asda and Tesco's, of all things. So yeah, my dissertation wasn't that great.
You can tell there's a lot of memes in this. We had to make it more lively.
We do have to do a shout out for James here.
Thanks, James.
In the front.
Our meme lord.
He constantly makes memes of us.
So I guess after uni, it was the very scary step into going to a graduate role and working in industry. So we both actually started on NCC Group's graduate program, which is lovely where we work at the moment. And we did the 6-month sort of introductory program that paves the way to consultancy, I think is a good way to put it. So it's basically a crash course in pen testing. So learning a lot of basics about web app testing, info testing, soft skills, being able to communicate, because we all know how important that is. And report writing. Then there was also a few things like forensics, which is quite good to see as well. And eventually we became fully fledged consultants, so we must be doing something right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is still me, because I'd love to be on a racetrack, but I'm still stuck working from home.
So, and a little war story, even though we've been pretty much fully fledged consultants, I want to say for 4 months, maybe it's longer. Time goes very quickly when you're in lockdown, even though we're now getting back to normal. So we once had a web app test that turned into a thick client assessment, which it's like a web app, but it's more directly connected to a database. Tools we'd never used, we had to try and learn whilst we were on the job. And then the access to the application or the thick client ended up breaking, and we had to try and test the thick client via Teams with the other person, the client, watching us. And I don't know if I've ever sweated more in my life. I had 10 minutes of trying to get this thing to work, stopping for a second, and it magically all became fixed. But we did find some extremely cool things, some critical vulnerabilities, sticky keys breakout from Citrix, and like File Explorer breakout. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a baptism of fire. But yeah, very stressful. Very stressful.
I think that was one of our first web apps as well.
It was.
So definitely was a little bit of a shock to the system.
Exactly.
And because obviously I now want to work in automotive, I had a really cool job a few months ago working on a head unit, so that was really cool. Basically just breaking it, which is fun. Found some cool stuff.
I love web apps. So now we are in the adult world. We have briefly mentioned that we are members of LCHS. So it all started with that collaboration from Cynam when we did a breakout session with them. This is our first promo video, which did feature noodle arms, which I seem to do a lot on our video calls. I don't know why, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, trying to do that with them. And from there, we've collaborated on different workshops. So we've done an SQL injection workshop with them, and it's all virtual whilst we're in lockdown. We've done a summer software special workshop with them, which is also on YouTube. Just teaching people how to use Python and the very basics. Jenny is a wizard with coding. And we have done another Cynam breakout session where Sophia also did a talk, so that's on our blog if you wanted to check that out, again, of the future of cars, and it was all about IoT and hacking and the fun stuff.
So I guess enough about us. We've done 20 minutes talking about ourselves. We'll now talk about obviously what kind of challenges we faced and sort of our top tips, I guess, if you are looking to get into industry or perhaps you're starting in your career journey. We had a few diversity challenges.
Yes.
Obviously, being females in a very male-dominated industry, you do have those minor few that's still prejudiced against that. My favourite was women shouldn't be allowed in cybersecurity. So that was probably my favourite comment of all. An ex-boyfriend told me I will never ever make it, but I can flirt my way to the top. Hand on heart, I haven't flirted my way to the top.
Yeah. And I also had, you don't look like the usual IT type, and this kind of went right over my head till I started thinking about it, and I was like, what do you mean I don't look like the usual IT type? This is what it is. But I think overall, we've both experienced that you're just a diversity pick. That was for me at uni and my placement year. But the main thing to remember is it's not all doom and gloom. Like, the cybersecurity industry, they really push for diversity, and I think everyone here, they're all friendly people. No one's really like this. This is just university challenges for the most part, and maybe the odd one or two people ever. I personally haven't faced that much, like, any issues really, but yeah, I would say the cybersecurity industry is at the forefront of actually trying to push for diversity. 100%. And it's so important to try and push for it because you don't want the same people from the same background coming in there thinking the exact same way. You need people from different backgrounds, and not just women in tech. You need people from all kinds of walks of life to be able to try and solve the issues, because at the end of the day, we're all in the trenches. So we really need to work together, which is kind of what we do now. And important parts is just that you need to keep up with industry. These are just things to note, is keep up with industry. Things are always changing. Look into new technologies, and try and break these new technologies. I know a lot of people do IoT hacking, and there was a workshop on that yesterday, so that would have been really interesting to go to. And read blog posts and news articles, etc., just to keep up to date. And that's part of the fun of being in our industry, is that it's constantly changing and you're constantly learning. So you don't ever get bored, and you're not just pressing buttons.
Every day is a learning day.
Every day is a learning day. And just so you know, not everyone has to be from an academic cybersecurity background. I mean, before I went to uni anyway, I did a A-level fashion course, basically, and I actually did all right in it. I did enjoy fashion. I also did IT. And Sophia got 4 GCSEs and half a BTEC. So
I wasn't very good at school.
You'll find your niche eventually. It is just nothing to worry about. And if I was still a fashion guru, I'd design everyone this dress in the IT industry, because I think the majority of people are like this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a 50-50 split.
So I guess now we can talk about our different options. Obviously, yes, we had different backgrounds, but we did opt for the university and academic route, but this is absolutely not the only way to get into security. So if that's your way you want to learn through academia, absolutely go for it. But I know loads of people that have come straight out of school and gone into apprenticeships or internships just to get straight into the workforce and get those hands-on experiences. And certifications as well. So some people just decide to do a little bit of self-study and get some industry certifications to strengthen their CV. That's another option as well. And we thought we'd list a few things that we think employers kind of look for when you're looking for a job. So having to show that you have got a passion for whatever by doing like individual projects, so either research-based, or if you want to like get little pies or Arduinos, DigiSparks.
DigiSparks, ESP8266 chips, come see me, I'm like 30.
So networking, I think, was a huge one. So actually getting yourself out there, coming to events like this, career days, using organisations like CSC UK. It's really important to kind of get yourself out there and meet people. And utilising online resources, there's a huge amount of stuff out there that's really quite easily accessible as well, through blogs, podcasts, YouTube tutorials, and loads of labs, which I know have been mentioned in previous talks, such as like Try Hackney, Hack the Box, Immersive Labs, that kind of thing as well. For me, obviously, I came from a managerial background. A lot of it I learned technically was through things like CTF competitions. Even if you just want to do it because you want to do it, not necessarily to win, I learned quite a lot from it personally. Or other online competitions as well. Or if you're the book type, a little bit of a bookworm, just grab a book, take some notes, have a read.
My case is like 90% InfoSec books, and about 50% of them I've actually skim read. So that goes to show you the books that can work. So with us now, what are we going to do in our futures? Sophia has touched on that she wants to be a car hacker. You saw the meme. She has hacked cars before. It's very cool. It's not my seed, but I'm more of a mobile person personally. I started working on mobile apps. I've done blog posts on mobile apps, and I want to start mobile hacking training, I guess is the best word for it. So that'll be in the new year when this is over, exams are over, fresh start. And we're just going to continue doing things like podcasts, talks and workshops, working with the community, championing diversity and partnerships. So next year is going to be a really busy year, and I think we want to get involved with Cynam again. That would be good.
I know. Yeah.
So that's our plans for the future.
And I guess just to round things off, we'll talk about, I guess, what our top tips are, learn from experiences, but take this with a pinch of salt. Everyone has a different experience coming into this industry, or when they're actually in industry as well. So I guess the top one for both of us was choose something that you enjoy. There's loads of different paths within security. You don't necessarily have to go down the pen testing red team route. You can do like the blue team SOC stuff, or you can do the audit and compliance, risk management, policies. There's so many different ways. Or I know cyber psychologists and all sorts.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a hacker is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And nothing is easy starting out. I think the 80-20 rule definitely applies to most things, particularly this.
Yeah.
80% failures for that 20% of sweet success pulled out of nowhere as well. One day you'll just experience it and you'll be like, this is awesome.
Yes.
I don't know how many times we've mentioned this, but communication is absolutely key. People are sometimes better than Google. And this kind of links into our next point of just network, not the computer type, but actually, unfortunately, face-to-face in the room, talking to people. Really sorry to break that to you. But it's really good to network with potential employers, other peers, people in the same boat as you as well. I didn't only make some really good professional connections, but also some friends as well, which isn't too bad. And I think just go for it, really. It's a bit scary kind of trying to start out in your career, but I know we spoke a little bit about doom and gloom, but I think in general, there are so many people around to support you one way or another. And there's such a huge amount of accessible kind of resources as well to help you along the way and kind of bolster and hold that knowledge to get you into the industry.
Yeah. I mean, Alex just did his talk on the rookie track and he said no one knows everything. And I thought that's such an important point to make. Like, you can never know everything and no one knows everything. So don't worry if you don't know something.
No one knows everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guess that's us, really. We just thought we'd enlighten you by talking about our personal journeys. Yeah. And also a little bit of advice from two people that have finally made it. We've done it. So we hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to contact us on any of our socials. We've obviously got the Security Queen stuff on there. And please do check out our blog/website. But we've also got our Twitter handles if you have any, car hacking questions or mobile hacking questions.
I'll try and answer them anyway. I will try.
Do please reach out.
We'll Google together. It will be fine.
I think we've got...
Yeah, any questions? Have we got much time for questions?
2 or 3 minutes? I'm not sure. Did you time that
anything?
Right?
Yeah, go for it. You need one of these mics. These are pretty cool.
So obviously, I've known about you two for quite some time. I've met Sophia before and stuff. And in terms of this sort of older teenager, young 20s kind of circle, you two are pretty well known. When it comes to dealing with how many people, especially us girls, how many of us look up to you, but also how many people sometimes try to bring you down. How do you mentally stay resilient and keep in touch with how much skill you have?
I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think we've both faced, as I said, the prejudices.
Minor. For the most part, people are very supportive. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, carry on.
I think it's important to have a network of people that you really trust and can actually support you, because at the end of the day, the people you work with are the people you see every day, the people that support you through things, and you learn from each other. And I think they're the most important things. If you have an online troll saying you can't do something, they're just an online troll. Who cares?
Keyboard warrior.
Delete them or whatever. I couldn't care less about social media hate, to be honest.
I think Sarah's hit the nail on the head there, that, you will have some bad apples, but I think in general people just want to help each other succeed. And coming to events like this, I mean, not necessarily running between talks, but having a chat in the hall or going to the pub, having a pint, just talking about whatever, really. It doesn't have to be about security. You help build those relationships, and if they can offer you a job or a way into industry, that's great. If not, you've got a friend on the sideline cheering you on. So I know it's really hard to say this when you're obviously faced by trolls and that kind of thing, but ignore them. They've got nothing better to do. You focus on you focus on your career or whatever, and people will still be there to support you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Cool. Well, we'll be at the pub if anyone has any sparking questions, but thank you so much for your time. This was our first Security Queen talk. So.